This is my best teams video for Open Great League, and for the next rotation of Go Battle League we're gonna have Great, Ultra and Master League all in one for that week. So anyways, now let's begin off the video with the first team showcase, as we're gonna analyze a ton of teams, more than 10 to be exact. So starting off with the Gligar team on Shadow mode with Lantern and Carbink at the back. So Carbink is a Pokemon that I really know most of you do not have easy access to, but if you want to replace it with something, I guess that Bastion might be your next big choice. However, with Carbink, this team will perform pretty nicely against the entire meta of Open Great League, and I would suggest to go on the lead with Lantern, having your Gligar as an aggressive switch to draw out something like a Skarmory, for example, so that your Carbink will most likely have no other severe threat on the end game. So this is the strategy that you need to follow. You can see here that on PvP we get a lot of Bs and As, which is pretty great on this chaotic mess of Great League, but that doesn't always say the truth. The real truth lies here on the potential threats. So knowing that now, we can see that we have Swallowed, Politoed, Lilip, some Pokemon that are non-existent in Great League, but the only Pokemon that I could find as a solid core breaker is this one, Skarmory, and it might be kinda low but still kinda threatful on our team, especially when you do not lead with Lantern. This is why you get a lot of X's on Lantern. You need to lead with it, go with the aggressive switch on Shadow Gligar, and of course with Carbink remaining, in the end you have nothing to fear. Into the next now with the Annihilate team. This is one of my favorites, once again with a Lantern, but this time not up in front but at the back. I think that Mandibuzz here will serve most likely as a safe switch because of how safe it can be overall with RLAs against the entire meta. And the worst case scenario, Dark Pulse is gonna help you a ton against any neutral one, so feel free to try this team out. It is super good. We can see here that we get more Bs and As, and at this point we're just gonna go on the potential threats. Here is where it gets tricky. You can always face even the dragon types with Ice Punch with your Annihilate, so if you find yourself in a situation where you see a lot of Altares up in front, you can easily two-shot them down with the Ice Punch, while you can always outspeed to the charge attack with your moves. Also, Carbink might be kind of a core breaker, but I guess that even Annihilate, which is gonna get almost one-shotted by the Moonblast, can survive on its own against Carbink, especially with those shields. And even if you do not have Ice Punch, I think that Annihilate with Night Slash and Shadow Ball will still deliver. Once again, Lantern here will perform much better with Water Gun, so just try that and you're gonna be just fine. Into the next one now with the Swampert team. Swampert is one of my favorite Pokemon overall to use on Great League because of how versatile it can be against the entire meta. You can always surprise your opponents with Sludge Wave, but I guess that for Open Great League, Earthquake is a must-have. And of course with Swampert, Skarmory is its biggest and best comrade out there. So with Chargeback filling up this team, you can have a pretty solid line which has almost nothing to be afraid of, and of course you get a lot of charge attacks to get there, spam your way to victory with a lot of firepower. So we're not gonna get a lot of great grades for this one PvP, but still you can see that the potential threats for your team are not gonna be many, while you can always rely on your team's synergy by rotating around your Chargeback as a safe switch, so that you can have the upper hand even up against a Bastion at the back. This is the main asset of this team. You need to aggressively switch in there with your Chargeback, finish off that Bastion, that Galarian Stunfisk, that Steel type that you're gonna draw out with your Swampert, and most likely then you're gonna have the upper hand with Skarmory. Not only that, but also both Chargeback and Swampert can protect your Skarmory against Lantern, while your backline can protect Swampert in return against those grass types. So the synergy is there, it's only up to you to grab it and make it your own, and of course convert it into some pretty nice wins for Great League. Into the next one now with the Mantine team. Mantine is an underrated Pokemon right now for Great League. Not a lot of trainers use it effectively, and I guess that this team really makes the best out of it. So with Mantine you get a Pokemon that it's pretty much not similar to Pelipper. Even though they get the same typing, they have different moves to throw. Ice Beam here is gonna help you you a lot against those dragon types, unlike Hurricane, which takes a lot of time to charge up on Pelipper. So if you want to replace Mantine, to not go for Pelipper, feel free to go with something like a Toxapex. I guess you are still gonna find some success, but Mantine is one of a kind right now. Stunfisk at the back with Serperior. You can see here that we get a pretty nice grades on PvPoke, and now we can see that on the core breaking list we can see Pokemon like Spinda, like Hakamo, like Setodl. Are you kidding me? We do not care about this, but Red Steel is a severe one. So I'm not seeing a lot of Red Steels right now in Great League. That might be because people are pretty much bored of this Pokemon, and of course you can always rely even on Freziplant sometimes to finish off your opposing side Red Steel. Even up against a Skarmory, which happens to be a core breaker as well, you need to sacrifice your Mantine for the greater good. So I guess that Mantine with Ice Beam can still perform pretty well against those Skarmorys, against those Alola Sunslashes with its moveset, but obviously that Steel typing will give you kind of a big headache. Other than the Steel typing though, especially when you can one-shot it down with your Galarian Stunfisk, you're gonna see that this team performs pretty nicely. Into the next one now with a Feraligatr team. So we get pretty much the same grades like before. This is a pretty nice team that can work against the entire meta of Open Great League, has access to some pretty deadly moves, and I think that with Cresselia you always want to have Grass Knot with you, while Moonblast or Future Sight can help you a ton. However, with the recent rise of dark types, especially on Umbreon and Mandibuzz, I guess that Moonblast is a must-have as well, so leave Future Sight aside for something else. So right here now, Go-Goat is a Pokemon that you are kind of afraid of, but I still get that not a lot of trainers have it. I know I do not have it, so there goes that. And of course I haven't found another notable core breaker because of how good Feraligatr can actually be. This Pokemon is absolutely insane. It can get only with 5 Shadow Claws to a deadly Hydro Cannon, and on Shadow mode it can do even more. So I guess that Feraligatr is a pretty handy Pokemon for you to try out, and especially under shielding and with proper rotation with this team, you can find yourself ahead a lot of bad leads on Great League. Into the next game now, and the next team, not even the game. We're checking out PvPoke today. We're gonna have Quagsire up in front, Talonflame and Lickitung at the back. This is a pretty safe team, and whenever you face a grass type up in front, this is the perfect opportunity for you to switch out on your Lickitung and keep Talonflame with 2 shields for the very end game. This is the main strategy that you need to follow with this team. It might not look a lot on paper, but you can always rely on this team to get some pretty nice seals, either with your Lickitung with the spammy Body Slams or with your Stone Edges and the Aqua Tails from Quagsire, while Talonflame can emerge like a perfect closer. However, here we can see that Dragon types might actually be a strong opposing threat for you. Of course, if you use something like a Mud Bomb, which is something that I really recommend you to do on your Quagsire, and you do not want to use Aqua Tail at all, well, Mud Bomb is gonna help you a ton against those Dragon types. So the only real threat that I could find about this team might be something like an Altaria, which is not even included on this list. This is weird, but still it is what it is. Besides that Dragon type, nothing else can stop you. This team has really the firepower to emerge victorious by utilizing effectively Talonflame with 2 shields as a pure fire closer. Now for the next team showcase, we use a Bastiodon team. Bastiodon is a Pokemon that always works pretty well with grass types, and especially Shadow Victreebel at the back, but I guess that other grass types can also find pretty good usage with it, and especially with Trevenant. Trevenant is a forgotten Pokemon this season, perhaps the season before this, but I also think that with Poliwrath on this team, you can find yourself ahead a lot of teams, and of course surprise them, because at some point whenever someone sees Bastiodon, they always expect something like a Shadow Victreebel to emerge. So by surprising them with your Poliwrath, you can always have the upper hand no matter what, and also you get a backline at the same time that without Shadow Victreebel can still cover the weakness that Basidon is having against those Mad Boys. Now let's see how this performs. Unfortunately, it is not a pretty safe team, but still you can always choose your closer with this team. So we're looking at a pretty strong line. I guess that Annihilate might be your biggest counterpart here, but still Poliwrath can perform a pretty even fight with Scalds, especially when you have a Shadow Poliwrath on your team. This is with a regular Poliwrath, but with Shadow perhaps even Annihilate might not be safe from your Scalds. This team is pretty good. This team gets extra coverage against the entire meta of Great League, and with Poliwrath you can even bait out something like a flyer that your Trevenant is afraid of, finish it off with the combined efforts of Icy Wind from Poliwrath and Smackdowns from Basidon, and emerge victorious eventually with your Trevenant. So right straight ahead now into the next one with the Azumarill team. This is a team that was pretty good a lot of seasons ago, and I still think that it is right now. It is time to revisit this team because of how good it can be on its coverage. So moving on, we can see here the grades that it gets, and finding a strong Galarian Stunfisk team with these grades is pretty tough and rough these days on Go Battle League and Great League. So here comes now the core breakers that I could find for this team, and of course Lantern is ranked 1. However, with Water Gun you can always hope for the best even with your Mandibas and Azumarill, so you can always count on synergy to prevail even up against a Lantern. Overall, Ferrothorn, Radily or something like, I don't know, Tapu Fini and Medicham aren't gonna be Pokemon that you're gonna face a lot, but still you can finish them off with the combined efforts of your Pokemon. This team will definitely surprise your opponents, especially when they're expecting something like not an Azumarill or a Galarian Stunfisk, because those two are pretty much forgotten from Great League, and not a lot of teams are gonna be prepared for this type of core. Now moving on, we're meeting up with a Registeel team. Registeel, as we have mentioned before, is a Pokemon that is used as a metal trash can. Not a lot of people trust it nowadays, but it is still racking up pretty high on PvPoke. I believe that with Registeel you can get access to some pretty nice moves with Zap Cannon and Focus Blast in no time at all with your Lock-on, and even though you can not always guarantee the debuff with Zap Cannon, sometimes it feels like your opponent cannot escape it, or you, especially when you are on the other side. So anyways, now with Pelipper having it here as a closer, we can always rely on Whimsicott as well. So yeah, perhaps Pelipper is not the closer. Perhaps on this one you can use Pelipper as your safe switch. You are not gonna regret it. Pelipper is a pretty good Pokemon, and with the other two Pokemon protecting your Pelipper from those electric moves, you should be just fine. All Bs for this team, which means that we have some straight up weaknesses, but I guess that the only severe weakness is gonna be the bad alignment for your opponent. So here comes now Cofagrigus as a weird heavy core breaker. I do not think you are gonna find a lot of Cofagrigus around, especially in the current state of Great League. Not a lot of trainers are gonna play this Pokemon, so besides that you're gonna have a very unsafe environment with this team, but at the same time you're gonna have a very safe environment with this team. It's pretty weird. You can see it in action when you can try this team. You do not have to always switch out. Registeel is pretty much like a punching bag. You want to use its nukes towards your victory, because by using Registeel as a third shield or fourth, you can manipulate the shield advantage towards your advantage, and of course either Pelipper or Whimsicott can emerge as pure closers for your team. So that was a weird team composition, but I still think it really stands on its own. So with the Altaria team now for the next one, Altaria is a pretty big bad of Great League. I still think that it can hold down a lot of Pokemon, especially the Mad Boys, has a ton of coverage against the grass types, and of course it is gonna help you much more against those fighters, which happen to be pretty much everywhere. Also, it is super bulky that even ice moves cannot one-shot it down. That's pretty awesome. Now with Empoleon Whiskas at the back, we're gonna be looking at a double water backline, which they do not share the same amount of weaknesses, especially when on your Whiskas you are running something like a Blizzard, which can definitely surprise your opposing grass types on the switch. And that's mainly because I want to use Whiskas with this team as a safe switch, so most probably whenever we lead with Altaria and they see Whiskas on the switch, they're gonna respond with a Superior, with a Venusaur, and trying to go for that extra overfarm. This is your perfect opportunity to get on Blizzard and to one-shot them down, flipping around that very bad lead that you might be suffering from. And with Empoleon on your closing part, you get a lot of coverage even against the steel types with your Drill Peck, or just go with the Hydro Cannons. No need to get to another Blizzard, you already have one on your Whiskas. Now with the next team showcase, we're having Clodsire up in front with Jellicent and Ninetales at the back. This team has to be used as it is, with Clodsire up in front, Jellicent as a safe switch, and Ninetales with Powder Snow as a closer. You can always rely on Ninetales with Charm, but that is only if you have a Shadow version, and I still guess that Powder Snow is gonna help you more with this team. The main asset of this team is gonna be charge attack, so if you can get those shields out of play from your opponent, you can see that in no time Ninetales from Alola can emerge like a perfect closer for your team. So Lickitung here will look like a core breaker, but of course it isn't. It's pretty much a soft core breaker because of how manipulative it can be with its bulk, but of course it's only up to you to finish it off with synergy or not. Lantern here can always pose a threat to your team, especially with Water Gun right now, but still if it has Water Gun, Jellicent will have a much easier job, and the double Shadow Ball might actually put it out of its misery. I do not think that I have found any other severe weakness with this team other than Greninja up in front. Obviously Ninetales is gonna have a great time, but with Powder Snow not so much, so Greninja is my top core breaker for this team, and that's mainly because of its moveset. Now let's keep going into the semi-final one with a Typhlosion team. Typhlosion is gonna have a lot of firepower, and I really mean this, with Incinerate and Blast Burn, while this season with Thunder Punch it is gonna get even spammier than ever. So this Pokemon, especially on Shadow, is a threat that you should not underestimate at all. Has a lot of firepower for the opponent, and in no time you can get some easy shields out of your opponents. With Poliwrath and Cresselia at the back, you get a pretty solid team for your Typhlosion, and for this exact team composition I recommend going for the regular Poliwrath over Shadow if that is an option. Otherwise use whatever you have. So on paper this team doesn't look much, getting D on coverage, B, C, B. You already know that PvPoke gives a wider stance of a wider view of what you can expect from your team, but this is not the end game. I still think that this team can perform pretty well against most threats, and this is why. According to PvPoke, Pelipper, Talonflame, Jellicent are all threats for your Typhlosion, making your backline even weaker to those Pokemon. But do not forget, you got moves like Grass Knot, like Thunder Punch, some moves that can hurt those three core breakers. I guess that Giratina Origin is gonna be the only Pokemon that can provide some pressure to you, and of course with Typhlosion getting only resisted damage on Giratina, I guess that only Icy Wind and Moonblast are gonna be your main ways to go. But how many people are gonna oppose you with a Giratina Origin? Not so much, that is the answer. I really thought we had one more team going on, as it seems we do not, so that is gonna be the end to today's amazing content. Thank you for watching till the end, it really means a lot for this channel, and before you go, leave a huge like, write down in the comment section which one is gonna be your secret sauce for this rotation of Go Battle League. Are you gonna play Great League? Are you gonna play Ultra League? It's all up to you, I know, but perhaps Master League might be for you, especially after those Necrozma's days. So that is gonna be all for today. Thank you for watching, leave a like, subscribe, and I hope to see you all into the next one.